This is Onia, and we are back once again to continue our study of the Hebrew language. Last week we discussed in a broad sense the origins of the Hebrew language, connecting it to the Akkadian language. And this series is intended to be a follow-up to the series that we did on the pagan origins of the Bible and Yahweh. So I decided to also show in this new series the pagan origins of the Hebrew language, to show how most of the Hebrew words that we know from the Bible actually had their roots in the pagan language of Akkadian. So we're going to be doing some in-depth study and comparing the different what's called Semitic languages. So we're going to look at each vocabulary word from Hebrew and seeing how far back we can trace it into the different Semitic languages, with the intent to show the origin of these Hebrew words. So we're going to be going through the vocabulary of as much of the Hebrew words as we can. It's going to be many videos over the course of many weeks, but we will take our time through it, and we will try to be very thorough. So first of all, let me share with you guys the resources we're going to be using. So we're going to be using, first of all, blueletterbible.org. They have a lot of great resources that are freely available. So we'll be looking at Blue Letter Bible and what it says there as a starting point. Then we also are going to have Wiktionary. We're going to look at Wiktionary and see the information that it reveals to us about the Hebrew words and how they're connected to the different Semitic languages. Then we also have these two other PDF files. There's this one PDF file which is called the Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language for Readers of English. And it basically goes through every single Hebrew word known until modern times, that known to scholars, that is, and gives the definitions and gives the etymology that the scholars have deciphered from their own studies. Now, this isn't to say 100% that what the scholars say is correct, but in general, their conclusions about the etymology of these words are reliable and trustworthy. So we're going to be looking through that. And also have a book called the Akkadian Lexical Companion for Biblical Hebrew. So we're going to be diving deep into that as well. So with that said, let's see here. We're going to get started. So first, let me share the screen for the Lexical Companion of, one second here. Lexical Companion for Biblical Hebrew. So I'm sharing my screen now. Etymological, semantic, and idiomatic equivalence with supplement on Biblical Aramaic. So we'll be going through this extensively. So let's see here. Let's skip down some. So the table of contents, we see there's the preface, then the abbreviations, lexicographical entries, typology of passages cited. Then it gives the actual Hebrew Akkadian companion, and then there's an appendix of different things. So we're going to skip acknowledgements. So let's take a look at the preface here. So this scholar expressed the need for a suitable tool to provide students of the Hebrew Bible with linguistic information from Akkadian. In his summation, he states, "This article on the relationship between Hebrew and Akkadian is a first attempt to reach a new approach to Hebrew, which will profit from the ever more manifest affinity of both languages, and in which the mentioned parallels are not considered incidental, but symptomatic underlying affinity. The existing parallels between Hebrew and Akkadian in words, grammatical structure, and idiomatic expressions, in my opinion, warrant new investigations into this relationship between Hebrew and Akkadian in order to understand both languages better. This would require a joint effort of Hebraists and Assyriologists." That's the word used for people who study the Akkadian language. "If more people would be convinced of the necessity and importance of such a study, the first aim of this article would have been attained." So this author of this book that I'm going through, his name is Haim. He said he embarked on a personal journey to undertake and bring such a project to fruition. Because of its complicated writing system, Akkadian is a rather difficult language to learn, and the majority of people whose main interest is the Hebrew Bible have limited access to the Akkadian material. Indeed, the hundreds of thousands of tablets uncovered in Mesopotamia can be used to elucidate and shed light on the language of the scrolls. Oh, by the way, so we talked before about how if Hebrew was the original language, we should be seeing evidence of it. We should be seeing manuscripts of some sort of Hebrew. Instead, we have virtually no texts of Hebrew at all prior to 1000 BC. But look, for Akkadian, we have hundreds of thousands of tablets. So why don't we have hundreds of thousands of tablets, or even thousands of tablets, or even hundreds of tablets in Hebrew prior to 1000 BC? We don't. That's a strong indication that the language of Hebrew is a later language and it's not the original language. I'm trying to look for my water bottle. I'll get one later. Anyways, so this is significant because, again, if it was the original language or the more ancient language, we should be seeing tablets, but we don't. So this guy says, so far to his knowledge, there has been no wide-scale attempt to systematically evaluate the parallels and cognates between these two branches of the Semitic family of languages. So that's why he decided to write this book. More specifically, this Akkadian Lexical Companion, this book, does not confine its interest solely to etymological equivalence, but also embraces semantic and idiomatic relations. While the prodigious amount of data assembled will appeal primarily to Hebrew Bible and East Semitic scholars, East Semitic refers to Akkadian and like Eblaite languages, I think anyone with some knowledge of Biblical Hebrew and Akkadian will want to consult this lexical companion from time to time. In other words, he's saying that this is mainly for scholars, this book, but this is also beneficial for regular people like you and I who have an interest or some knowledge of Hebrew and Akkadian. So to that end, the contribution of this book will meet concerns on several main levels. To help uncover meanings for Hebrew words that hitherto have eluded clear definition in particular contexts, but which have either Akkadian cognates or vocable equivalents employed in a similar context. To propose nuances for Hebrew words suggested by similar Akkadian usages. To allude from related expressions in Akkadian. To express a certain understanding of Hebrew words and expressions in light of their Akkadian equivalents. To show that the large resource of Akkadian literature, though geographically and temporally somewhat remote and linguistically somewhat different from Hebrew, nonetheless can offer a large number of insights for the task of understanding and interpreting Biblical Hebrew. Last but not least, indirectly, to introduce those biblical scholars and students who are not familiar with the Akkadian language to the vast Assyrian and Babylonian material as compiled in all the volumes of the Assyrian dictionary. In other words, this is just basically to give a introduction to the Akkadian dictionary, because a very exhaustive dictionary of Akkadian has been produced, but it's much more tedious to go through. It's like 20 plus volumes, and for the purposes of comparing Akkadian with Hebrew, we don't need all that fluff. So this book helps to consolidate the information and make it concise for those trying to see the origins of Hebrew and Akkadian, or the similarities between the two languages. Let's see here. So this book has adopted the following methodology. So stress on disclosing the meaning of words by means of an inductive method rather than the use of an etymological one. Therefore, the demonstration of the etymological equivalent between two terms does not grant the demonstrator the right to force semantic equivalence upon them as well. What that means is that they might share the same etymology, but the meaning in those languages might be differing due to, over time, words change. To give you an example, the word gay does originally meant more like happy, right? But then over time it became a different meaning. So in the same way, if you have in one language a word, it can mean one thing in one language and it can mean another thing in a different language, because over time the meaning can change due to cultural corruption of the word. Emphasis on poetic usage and parallelism. Accordingly, the set of words that occur in parallelism with the term in question will both individually and collectively supply invaluable semantic evidence. The parallel usage in a parallel context as a check on etymological comparison to determine it also semantically equivalent. To establish the semantic development of the lexeme from its concrete physical connotation to its abstract meaning, instead of considering the lexeme as comprised of two or more homonyms. Homonyms, it means that it's spelled the same, but it's two different roots. So the idea is attempting to find a common root in the same spelling if the evidence indicates that that's the case. Let's see here. Ugaritic was also a language that we've talked about that was discovered. So Ugaritic and Akkadian exemplify two characteristics of the perfect resource for biblical study. Unfortunately, each possesses only one characteristic. Ugaritic, whether or not it is classified as Canaanite, is patently a close relative of ancient Hebrew. Not only is it a nearby branch off the same bough of the family tree, but the chronological and geographical gaps separating Ugaritic from early biblical Hebrew are remarkably small. On the other hand, Ugaritic is, when all is said and done, not a particularly well-attested language. Its literature has revealed itself to be rather limited in scope, and its language is correspondingly narrowly known. It still seems safe to assume that a native Ugaritic speaker could help modern biblical philologists with many textual and literary conundrums of the Bible, but the texts we have do not allow us to reconstruct enough of the language to stand in the native speaker's place. Akkadian, in contrast, is phenomenally well attested, and just as importantly, thoroughly studied and understood on internal evidence. The study of a given Ugaritic text begins with certain reference tools at hand. Lexicons of ancient Hebrew, Akkadian, Arabic, Phoenician, Aramaic, and so on. Given a Ugaritic text and no other knowledge of Semitic languages, the philologist would have little chance of deciphering any of it. But the hundreds of thousands of preserved Akkadian tablets of all genres and types, from many different periods and locations, enable the Assyriologist to suspend comparative work and focus on the language at hand. This luxury afforded to Akkadian lexicographers ensures that our knowledge of Akkadian is not only thorough but secure, since it is not based on etymologies derived from elsewhere. Akkadian then provides the biblicist with astonishing reserves of linguistic data. So what that tells us is that we have enough Akkadian evidence that we don't need Hebrew, Arabic, or other Semitic languages to figure out what the meanings of the words are. We can use Akkadian by itself to determine that. But to understand the meaning of the Hebrew words, it's essential to investigate Akkadian. So this book involves a direct comparison of Akkadian and Biblical Hebrew and Biblical Aramaic. The central thesis is that unmediated comparison can assist in explicating otherwise difficult biblical lexemes and idioms. The assumption behind the thesis is that Akkadian lexicography is further advanced than a Hebrew lexicography. Though this may seem paradoxical, or at least lamentable, it is in fact inescapable. The two factors that created this state of affairs, and that ensure that it will continue for the future, are the quantity of text at the lexicographer's disposal and the types of texts. The mundane component of language, usually the most basic competent, is in fact disproportionately attested in Biblical Hebrew. Words for tools and household items are often attested only in metaphorical use in the Bible. The word for upper millstone is attested only in a legal context and twice in narrative passages, none of which clearly identifies the object, and the word for lower millstone does not occur at all. The word for hoe is only attested once, and only because Isaiah tries to describe rocky land. Akkadian is by and large free of these problems. The difficulty is that Akkadian is the Semitic language genetically most distant from Hebrew and its cognates. The historical linguistic trained in comparative reconstructive techniques of, say, the Indo-European languages would scoff, therefore, at the idea that direct Akkadian-Hebrew comparison could be profitable. Is in order, therefore, as to the state of affairs in the ancient Semitic world that enables such comparison to be, in fact, extraordinarily profitable. So I'll stop for a second and just want to emphasize that in Hebrew, we have barely anything preserved in Hebrew. It's the Bible, a few other writings outside the Bible, and that's it. The vast majority of Hebrew literature has not been preserved at all. You know, Solomon spoke about books, many books being written, and yet all those books are lost. In the Hebrew language, we don't have these books. Whereas Akkadian, we have a large variety of texts from different points of history and all different types of categories of writings. So Akkadian provides us with a more complete picture of the language of Akkadian than Hebrew does with the Bible. Because when the Bible was written, it wasn't being written so that word in the Hebrew language would be preserved in the Bible. It was only the Hebrew words which were needed to be said in those books were used. All the other words of Hebrew outside the Bible were not included in the Bible because there was no context in the Bible that required their usage. But because of that, a lot of Hebrew words became extinct. They no longer were used because they were forgotten. Eventually, Jews only became familiar with the Hebrew of the Bible and Rabbinic Hebrew. Rabbinic Hebrew preserved some extra Hebrew words that are part of the original Hebrew, but otherwise, almost all Hebrew words became lost due to this fact. But Akkadian preserves a vast quantity of its vocabulary due to the vast amount of material that was preserved in Akkadian. Okay, so the Semitic daughter languages present the historical linguist with a far more complicated state of affairs than their Indo-European counterparts do. The fact that Sanskrit differs so sharply from Greek and Latin was a crucial fact that allowed the similarities to be seen and the protoforms to be reconstructed with relative ease. The reconstruction of Proto-Semitic, on the other hand, or in other words, the original Hebrew, is complicated by the fact that the Semitic languages, even after splitting, were in close contact with each other. There are Akkadian loanwords in Ugaritic, Cananisms in the Akkadian of the Amarna letters, West Semitic morphological and syntactic features in the Old Babylonian Mari letters, and dozens of proven cases of Aramization of the Akkadian of the Neo-Syrian Empire, as well as pervasive influence of Akkadian on the Aramaic of the time, and Arabic absorbed from every language with which it had contact. Such a situation does not readily lend itself to historical reconstructions of any type, much less of a simple, this I think might be a German word, a simple form. This same phenomenon of interlingual influence, because of intercultural context, precisely because it hinders efforts at the reconstruction of Proto-Semitic, demands a more heavily synchronic focus. So let me see here. I'm going to skip some of this. The biblical philologist has always been able to turn to other Semitic languages for parallel lexical items and morphological features. So these various scholars showed that literary features of the Bible were shared by other Northwest Semitic texts, such as Arabic and Aramaic, that this was another realm in which comparative Semitics could elucidate biblical passages. And this guy's teacher expressed that a kid could be just as helpful to biblical studies in this respect. Let's see here. So the question of how a particular idiom made its way from Akkadian to Hebrew is a moot point. It doesn't matter. The fact that the parallel existed is what is of interest. In this respect, this approach is thoroughly synchronic. Each such parallel, of course, could and should provide further material for the historical linguistic to ponder. If a particular semantic development can be traced into Semitic languages, does this indicate a calque or simply parallel independent development? In other words, does this indicate borrowing from each other, or does it indicate that they developed they both developed the same thing but independently of each other? Does the presence of similar idioms in different Semitic languages indicate an inheritance from the original Hebrew or Proto-Semitic, some kind of Semitic way of viewing the world, or simply a borrowing? These questions are of historical interest, and in the realm of diachronic studies, they are fundamental. But the philologist can dispense with such questions because the object of philology is not a historical dictionary, but a viable and defensible interpretation of a text. So he says it is for these two very different camps that he wrote this book. His own interests are philological. His primary focus has been to identify the words in the Bible that have Akkadian cognates. Cognates is basically the same word in a different language. And where possible, to show that this connection is not merely of historical interest, but can help in elucidating the biblical text. This is, I believe, essentially important when idiomatic expressions are involved. It is an obvious truth that idiomatic phrases and expressions are the most difficult component of a language for a non-native speaker to understand. When dealing with a dead language, the lack of native informants to inform us of the precise significance of idioms is often an insurmountable problem. The only tool in the hands of the philologist is context, and in the case of idioms that appear only a few times, often there is simply not enough data to enable any firm conclusion. Early exegetes of the Bible seem to have followed their instincts, interpreting phrases as they saw fit. We can now do better, however. Examples within demonstrate clearly that the playful and less ambiguous expressions in the Akkadian texts enable us to ascertain with some certainty and precision the meaning of the biblical idiom. In some cases, the idioms are not only semantic, but etymological equivalents. In others, etymologically unrelated, but semantically equivalent idioms are shared by biblical Hebrew and Akkadian. The meaning of this expression seems clearly to be next year, at this next year, on internal biblical grounds, though it literally means at the time living. The existence of the Akkadian expression anabalat, next year, clinched the point, as it too means literally at the living. This word in Hebrew and the Akkadian balat are semantic but not etymological equivalents, because they both mean life, but they're different words entirely. They form idiomatic phrases with identical meanings. Okay, let's see here. Even in cases where exegetes thought the meaning of a particular biblical expression was clear, nuances can be covered, subtitles can be distinguished, and corrections can be introduced into the Hebrew lexicon in light of Akkadian. In addition to this particular benefit of Assyriology for biblical lexicography, at the level of the idiom there is, of course, the more straightforward use of cognates. In instances in which the meaning of a biblical Hebrew lexeme is ambiguous and debated, evidence from Akkadian often helps to adjudicate among the possibilities. The material collected here should be of interest also to those whose passions lie not in the meaning of the text but in the history of the languages. The cognates collected should provide data to those interested in working on the Semitic family tree in general, or in the eastern or northwestern branches more specifically. For those biblical scholars unfamiliar with the Akkadian language, we have provided in the appendix a very brief overview of its history, phonology, and morphology to afford the biblicist an immediately accessible means to better appreciate the Akkadian passages cited here. For those interested in learning more about the phonology, pronunciation, and morphology, spelling, of Akkadian, we refer the reader to Jean Hunegard, A Grammar of Akkadian. For those interested in learning about the development of cuneiform writing and the literary history of Akkadian, as well as the actual literature itself, and as a starting point, we refer the reader to Daily Life in Ancient Mesopotamia by Karen Rea Nemet Najat, and also to Benjamin R. Foster's book Before the Muses, an Anthology of Akkadian Literature. When citing an Akkadian passage directly from the Akkadian dictionary, we have included the Akkadian dictionary's translation. However, when the Akkadian dictionary provides a partial translation, because we have included more of the Akkadian passage, or no translation, and thus the translation is at least partly ours, we have indicated this by citing the Akkadian dictionary reference with an asterisk. So if you see CAD with asterisks, that means they did their own translation. Also, since many using this dictionary will have little or no working knowledge of the Sumerian language, where the Akkadian dictionary in its transcription cites the Sumerian logogram used by the scribe to express the Akkadian, we have replaced it, whenever possible, with the actual Akkadian word intended by the scribe. Lastly, it is the policy of the Akkadian dictionary to transliterate the main entry term when citing a passage. Instead, we have transcribed and normalized the term. We have listed the page in the Akkadian dictionary and the AHW. I'm not sure what the AHW is. It's another resource, though, as a source so the interested reader can find the specific references to the original texts and others with full publication details. We make no claim to provide the last word on the subject. Ours is only a pioneering attempt to summarize what comparative philology has achieved so far. More documents will be discovered, and the texts that are known today will be reread. In general, we have tried to be thorough in recording all cases where Akkadian can shed light on biblical Hebrew. We have also tried to consult all appropriate comparative studies, but as can be seen from the bibliography, the field is expanding rapidly. We have also tried to spread a wide net to take in commentaries and studies of the biblical verses containing the Hebrew words that the Akkadian counterparts can illuminate. However, in case we have overlooked relevant studies or have omitted any biblical Hebrew and Akkadian words that are etymologically and semantically equivalent and comments, it is then indeed appropriate to quote from the teachings of the fathers. I believe that's a rabbinic writing, Pirkei Avot. To that end, let's see. I'm not exactly sure the correct translation for this because it's a different type of Hebrew, I think. One second here. Okay, so that is the preface. Let me see who's on. Shalom, everyone. I see we have a few people on here. So with that said, here is the abbreviation table. So it shows the books of the Bible, the abbreviations. Those should be pretty obvious for us. There's rabbinic works that are cited. Those are not too relevant for us, but if we're not sure about the abbreviation for that occurs, we can find it here for rabbinic things. Then we have other documents. The AHW is another Akkadian dictionary. We have different writings, such as AL is the Amarna letters. We have various dictionaries. Let's see here. AP is the Aramaic papyri. That's the Elephantine papyri. Let's see. And if we need to, we can always go back and consult this list if we're confused about any reference. CH is Code of Hammurabi. Let's see. Okay. KB is is a lexicon of Hebrew. They have some translations of the Bible, NIV, for example, NAB. You get the picture there. So they have some abbreviations for translations of the Bible. And then we have other abbreviations. So adjective, adverb, Akkadian, appendix. Here we have Arabic. That's just AR. Aramaic is ARAM. Assyrian ASS. Dot. BA is Biblical Aramaic. Babylonian. Biblical Hebrew BH. Let's see. EA is El Amarna. I believe that's the same thing as the Amarna tablets. Let me see here. Hold on. Okay, so MT Masoretic, MH Mishnaic Hebrew, kind of like it's like a rabbinic Hebrew. Middle Assyrian, Middle Babylonian. We have Neo-Assyrian, NA. LB is Late Babylonian, LBH, Late Biblical Hebrew, LW, Loan Word. These are going to be important for helping us understand some of the references later on. HB is Hebrew Bible. Okay. NB, Neo-Babylonian. OA is Old Assyrian. OAKK, Old Akkadian. ORM is Old Aramaic. OB, Old Babylonian. We have the Old Persian here. Okay. PN is personal name. PH, Phoenician. Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls. SB is Standard Babylonian. So these are basically different periods of time where the language of Akkadian is preserved in different times of history. So like for English, you have Old English, Middle English, Early Modern English, and then you have Modern English. So it's like the same kind of thing, but instead it's doing the different dialects. So Akkadian is the original, then it splits off into Babylonian and Assyrian dialects. So you have the Old Assyrian, then you have Middle Assyrian, and then you have New Assyrian, or it would essentially be the equivalent to modern English. It's the latest form. Standard, on the other hand, is an attempt to use a scholarly form of the language that try to go back to the original. But it's kind of like a middle Babylonian or late Babylonian, but it tried to use the language of earlier Babylonian. So let's see. That's pretty much it. So WSEM is West Semitic, UG Ugaritic. Okay. So 1 second. I'm just gonna get a water bottle. So 1 second. And we're gonna get started. So let me just put it on the screen so you guys can see. So I shall be back momentarily. So 1 sec, guys. Okay, sorry about that. So I did find where the water bottle had gone. It was I had left it in the bathroom accidentally. So, anyways, so now let's take a look here. So entries contain the following. So the vocalized Biblical Hebrew entry arranged in alphabetical order by word and not by root. Akkadian etymological and semantic equivalent. So, for example, they're giving lev or lib, which is the Hebrew word for heart, and then they show the Akkadian equivalent, which is lib or libu, heart. And by the way, Akkadian basically always adds an extra syllable at the end, sort of like a case ending. So you'll see like libu, but the actual word is lib, and u is just the a ending for it that Akkadian adds basically to all different words. So, okay, and then a minimal grammatical analysis, for example, it's this adjective, number, preposition, V, I think, is verb. Okay, so when the word is a plural, it is entered under its plural form. Special features exhibited by the lexeme. So if it's a Sumerian loanword, or if it's Akkadian, Biblical Hebrew. So when necessary, the identification of the Biblical Hebrew and the Akkadian stems, so like conjugations of the verb. The period of attestation of the Akkadian lexeme corresponding to the geographical regions of North Syria and South Babylonia or South Mesopotamia. So North and South Mesopotamia. North Mesopotamia is Assyria, South Mesopotamia is Babylonia. So this gives you an idea of the time period we're talking about with these terms. So late Babylonian, 600 BC to 50 AD. So basically the Babylonian exile and after. Middle Assyrian is 1500 to 1000 BC. Middle Babylonian is 1600 roughly to 1000 BC. Neo-Assyrian is 1000 BC to 600 BC. So basically the time of David and the kings, David, Solomon, and the kings of Israel. Whereas Middle Assyrian and Middle Babylonian is the time of when Moses is in Egypt with the Israelites, and then the Exodus and and the time of the judges. And Neo-Babylonian, Neo-Assyrian are both 1000 BC to 600 BC. Old Assyrian is 1950 BC to 1750 BC, and Old Babylonian is 1950 to 1600 BC. So this period basically covers the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So according to Scripture, specifically the Book of Jubilees, the flood occurs around the year 2500 BC. And then 500 years after that is when Abraham is roughly born. So you have essentially Abraham being born around the 2000 BC. So Abraham as an adult, and he lived almost 200 years old. So Abraham was in prime health, or basically Isaac was born when this period was occurring, Old Assyrian and Old Babylonian. So Abraham would have been speaking these languages, this language, the Old Akkadian, or the Old Assyrian or Old Babylonian. Standard Babylonian was after 1500 BC, and basically Old Akkadian was the form of Akkadian prior, and notice it says 2350 to 2000 BC. During this time period, around this time period is when the Tower of Babel happened. So this is essentially when Akkadian originates. It originates in the time shortly after the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel happened about 200 to 300 years after the flood, according to Jubilees. So that would have happened around 2300 BC, based on Jubilees. So 2300 BC is when the Tower of Babel happened. The scholars are given a range here. These dates are not exact dates. They're estimates based on the scholars, but you can see it's roughly close to when the Tower of Babel event happened. Okay. And in this entry, also, other categories are recognized. Mari, Elam, these different regions have different types of Akkadian. Reference to the main entry of the Akkadian lexeme. The principal meaning as used in Akkadian and Biblical Hebrew. Alternative English renderings of the same area of meaning are separated by commas. And then the next section presents the various idiomatic correspondences between the two languages, quoting in full both the vocalized Biblical Hebrew verse and the Akkadian sentence, if possible in a similar context. The idiomatic expressions in the majority of cases include both the etymological and semantic equivalents. Both the Biblical Hebrew and Akkadian entries will correspond etymologically and semantically, while the second lexeme of the idiomatic compound will be semantically equal. In other cases, the idiomatic correspondences between the two languages will be both etymologically and semantically equal. So, for example, this first one, lib hula, is identical in meaning to lib mars, but mars is a different word than holla. My pronunciation might not necessarily be accurate, but down here we have this phrase leb tov. That means good heart. In Akkadian, it's lib tab. Same. It's the same two words. In a few special cases, the idioms will correspond only semantically. Let's see here. This entry will likewise indicate the frequency of the expressions, such as hapax, idiomatic hapax, etc. So hapax basically means if it occurs like only one time, then it's considered a hapax. And that means that it's so infrequent in usage that the meaning is not 100%. Because if it only occurs one time in the language, how do we know that's what it means? So the best way to know what a word means is to see that word used over and over again in different contexts. So we can see, okay, that's what the word means. But if the word is used only once in one context, we have less confidence of what its meaning is. So there are many hapax words in the Bible, which means that a lot of the words in the Bible, we don't know for sure if they mean what they are commonly interpreted to mean. But that's why we look to Akkadian, Arabic, and other Semitic languages to try to figure out if the hapax words, what the correct meaning of those words are. When necessary, the entry includes a lexicographical discussion to correct certain understandings of biblical Hebrew words and expressions in light of their Akkadian equivalents, and to propose nuances for biblical Hebrew words suggested by similar Akkadian usages. Cross-references are indicated by a hand pointing. It's hard to see, but that's what it is. It's a hand with a finger pointing. Bibliography or recent lexical studies are indicated by an open book symbol. So now it's the typology of passages cited. So H equals Hebrew word, A, Akkadian word. Subscript indicates cognate relationship. So a Hebrew term that has the opposite meaning in Akkadian. So it's gonna say AD. I believe it should be saying AD. So for example, however you say this, laka, to be unable, but in Akkadian it means to be able. The use of verbal and nominal forms with the same root in which the noun is the direct object of the verb. Let's see. I'm not sure about this one. I think it's just saying, it says cognate construction. So it's the same form in both. The use of two terms expressing somewhat opposite meanings, so contrasting usage, it'll say con. Hebrew main entry term used with the contrasting second Hebrew term. Akkadian cognates of each to express the same contrasting meaning. So for example, in Hebrew you have to come and to go. There's two different Hebrew words, to come and to go. Boa and halak. In Akkadian, you have those same two words, and with the same difference in meaning. Hebrew main entry term used with a contrasting second Hebrew term. Akkadian cognate of main entry term and a second Akkadian term that is not a cognate of either Hebrew term to express the same contrasting meaning. Okay. DIP signifies that it's a diplomatic correspondence. Trying to skip some of this. EU is a euphemism. The same euphemism occurs both in Hebrew and Akkadian. Here we see the Hebrew main entry term, the Akkadian cognate to express the same literal meaning in similar contexts. Hebrew main entry term, Akkadian cognate to express the same literal meaning in different contexts. Again. Okay, this is hendiadis. So aretz. In Hebrew, it's aretz for earth and wa shemayim, and that's earth and heaven or sky. In Akkadian, you have the same thing. It's Aratzet u Shama, the whole world, land and sky. Okay, so what this is saying is that there's two different words to make a phrase, and the phrase is understood to mean a certain thing, but the literal meaning is something else. So like the phrase is being used to mean the whole world, but the literal meaning is land and sky. And okay, so I'm going to skip some of these here. Here again, merismus, all the time, literally day and night. Okay, parallelism. So they'll list parallelisms as well. Simile or metaphor is going to list. A transferred meaning. Okay, so that's the basic thing here. So now we are about to get started. One second here. So first, I want to show you guys Blue Letter Bible. You guys have might seen it before. But I highly recommend you guys using Blue Letter Bible because it helps to have a proper understanding of the words used in the Bible and translate it effectively. So let me share the screen with you guys. So here we have, see, it's going to say Strong's. It's going to give a Strong's number. And we're going to see how it's translated in the Bible. So 1,200 times as father. And you see a few other times it's translated to chief. See a few different ways of translating it. But for the most part, its primary meaning is father. So you'll see how it's used. And it gives a little entry here, some etymology, the Blue Letter Bible. It shows, see, Arabic and Ethiopian. So you can get a lot of information from Blue Letter Bible. So I highly recommend Blue Letter Bible. So the first word we're going to be discussing is probably Av. Let's take a look at the comprehensive etymological dictionary to see what the first word there is. By Ernest Klein. It attempts to give every Hebrew word known throughout history the etymology of it. So let's skip this. One second. It's also giving like abbreviations. Okay, so let me zoom in now. So first of all, it tells us that Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the name of Aleph is actually a Hebrew word, Aleph. This is how it's spelled, Aleph. And it means ox. And that same word occurs in Akkadian, as well as Arabic, in Phoenician. Once also the Greek word alpha for the first letter of the Greek alphabet comes as well. Alpha comes from Aleph. In post-biblical Hebrew, it has the numerical value of 1. So Aleph can be used to mean the number 1. Aleph alternates with other gutturals as with He. So sometimes it's spelled differently in the Bible in different places. Here you have Amun versus Emun. And with Ayin, it can also alternate with Yod occasionally. We see that He and Aleph are interchanged between Hebrew and Aramaic. So the Hebrew is starts with a He, but the Aramaics are the same thing, starts with the Aleph. The Hebrew He Tav prefix, Aramaic it's Aleph Tav prefix. Aleph is also used to form secondary verbs and nouns. In Aramaic, it also serves as a definite article added at the end of the word, basically means the. Okay. So this is sometimes it's added to the beginning of words. Aleph is added to the beginning of words. It's called, they say prosthetic Aleph. So basically that just means it helps to pronounce the word easier. So they'll add it. It also sometimes be added to foreign words. Okay, so the first word also here is father. So first we'll take a look at what they say here. So Av, you can pronounce it as Ab or Av. The plural form is Avot or Abot. So father, forefather, patriarch, ancestor. So really means the origin, someone who originated something. So your father is your origin, your ancestral origin, but your grandfather is also your origin and your originator. And every ancestor you have is your originator. But in Hebrew, the mother is not considered the originator. The father is the originator. So there's a different word used for mother, but father is essentially the one who makes it come into being, the originator. Post-biblical Hebrew, it means the basic factor, origin, or source. It's also used in much later Hebrew for like Christians, who call their bishops or priests father. So it's saying that later on in like the Middle Ages, this word was also used to refer to the fathers of the church, the various priests or whatever. We have Ugaritic is also Av, Akkadian Av, Arabic Av. Okay, so that's the first word there. So that was the etymological that was the comprehensive etymological dictionary of Hebrew. Now we're going to look at the Wiktionary page for it. Let me pull it up for you guys. One second. Actually, I can share the screen for you guys so you can see what I'm doing. So let's take a look at Ab. It's going to just help me pull it up easier. So Abba, it's going to tell us is, okay, it's from the Aramaic. I just want Ab. So hold on. I can just copy and paste the Hebrew. That's what I'll do. So let me paste that word right here. Okay, so Hebrew. So it comes from, okay, so it's the same Proto-Semitic. Okay, so we click this. Well, first, see, it's the same thing. Father, originator, what I said before. So now we click this. Oops, sorry guys. One second. Okay, so Proto-Semitic, the original Hebrew. So now we're going to see the different Semitic languages where this same word occurs. So you have it in Ethiopian. So the Ethiopian language, Ge'ez, is Ab. This word right here, Ab. So it's literally the same exact word. basically it's pronounced. It's essentially pronounced the same. Okay, ah. That same word occurs in other Ethiopian languages. Right here, see ab and abo, abat. See, it's the same basic word. You have Old South Arabian. It's spelled ab. Same thing in the different dialects of Old South Arabia. Now you have the Canaanite, and these are the different dialects of Hebrew. So the Ammonites, this is Paleo-Hebrew. This is how it was written in Paleo-Hebrew. So Ammonite dialect of Paleo-Hebrew spells it ab. Edomite, Paleo-Hebrew, same spelling, same word. Moabite, same spelling, same word. Phoenician, same spelling, same word. Punic is an offshoot of Phoenician. Again, it's the same. Hebrew is spelled in that later alphabet script, but it's the same word, same spelling. Av. And then Ugaritic, they used a different script for it, but it's an older script, it's cuneiform, but it's Ugaritic alphabetic cuneiform. So that's how they spell it in the precursor to Hebrew. You spell it with these arrows, and it's the same pronunciation. But now let's take a look. Aramaic is Abba, spelled with the A at the end. Syriac, which is an offshoot, also has Abba, same word, because Syriac is essentially Aramaic, just a later dialect. Akkadian, it's a loan word. Greek wrote it early on. Okay, Arabic, Ab, literally the same word, Ab. Okay, so far we're seeing the exact same word in all these languages, spelled virtually the same. Now take a look at this. Akkadian, Abum. The is the case ending. So once again, we have let's see how they spell it with this. Okay, so now take a look down here. So they're saying there's different ways to spell it in Akkadian. There's the logogram spelling and there's the phonetic spelling. Phonetic is like how you pronounce it, and the logogram is how you like the words, spelling it with words. So kind of like how in Chinese, Chinese has words for letters. Well, something similar occurs. So you can spell it as this. I believe it's left to right. So it'd be like ab and ba, or no, it'd be like a and ba. The second word is ba. See, notice you have ab and ba and a and ba. But look, it's the same word here. Ba. The word ba is the same. And the first word is ab for this, but the second word is a for in this spelling. So there's different ways to spell it. But then there's the phonetic spelling where you have a here. That's the same as a right here. And then you have boo, abu, and abu. So see, there's different ways to spell it. And these are all using the Sumerian words to spell the Hebrew words, essentially, or Akkadian words. So, 1 second here. So let's take a look at second. We'll take a look at the page here. So this first word this first word is the Sumerian word ad. So we click that, ad. So in Sumerian, that means father. The Sumerian word for father is ad, and that's the word for, it's pronounced ad, and the word is ad in Sumerian. So that's an alternate form of ada. Sumerian word ada also means father. But so ad means father in Sumerian. So it has the meaning of father, but it has the phonetic value of ad. So the best way to explain this to you guys is that in Akkadian, when you want to say father, the word is av. So you can use this word. You use the word ad to mean av. The word ad means ab. You're using the Sumerian word ad to mean the Akkadian word ab. But in other places, if you have a Hebrew or Akkadian word that has the sound ad in it, you can also use this word to say to mean add the pronunciation rather than add meaning av, father. So let's try to give an example in English how this could make sense. So you could, if we were writing English in Sumerian words, we could use this word, but instead of pronouncing it as ad, we would write it, we would say it as father. So if we saw this word in a book, instead of saying ad, we would say father. That's how we would say it. But there might be other contexts where, let's say, you might say like, this is an annoying ad, talking about like an advertisement. I hate that ad. That ad is so annoying. You could literally use this word to refer to ad because that's the sound, the value, ad. The same thing occurs in Akkadian where any word that has the sound of ad, you could spell it with this word. So you could spell this to mean the Akkadian word father, but you can also use the same word for the sound of ad. So Akkadian does both. It'll use the words to mean the translated meaning, but it can also use it to mean the sound of it. So it can be confusing when trying to learn it. But let's go to the next one here. Abba. So in Sumerian, this has a completely different meaning. The Sumerian here means who or whoever, but the Akkadian, it means father. But it's split of two different words. So if we look at the two different words, we can see it says signs in this term. So we can look. The first word is in Sumerian, it means water. It could also mean semen or seed, the offspring. Okay. So that is literally the word in Sumerian. That's what it means. Ah. Then if you go to like Akkadian will use this word to also mean water because look, the word can mean water or fluid in Sumerian. That's what it means in Sumerian. So Akkadian translates it into mai or mu, which is identical to the Hebrew word mayim. Mayim means water in Hebrew. The Akkadian word is mai or mu. It's the same word, and it uses the Sumerian word for water, but pronounces it as the Akkadian word moi. But this same word in Akkadian can also be used to mean air, and they would pronounce air with the Akkadian word apul. Apul is air in Akkadian. Because Sumerian, it can mean water, but it can also mean the offspring. Because look, it means water, but it also means seed. So a child is your seed, just like the Bible refers to your offspring as the seed, like the seed of Abraham. So in the same way, you can have literal water, seed, or you can have your offspring, your seed. So in the same way, that word can be water, can be rendered as water. That's how you would pronounce it if it's in the context of water, or if it's talking about your descendant, it'd be your heir. Okay, so then we go to that next word, the allotment, distribution, or the share. To divide up, allot, distribute, meaning. Okay, and then let's see the Akkadian. Akkadian, it means the same thing, to bestow or to divide. Okay, so now if we go back, we can see why it's considered a word for father. Because literally what it's saying is the one who distributes the seed, and that's the father. He's the one who distributes the water. The divider of water is the father who produces the seed. And so that's another way of saying ab in Akkadian. So you'll pronounce it the same way. You'll pronounce it as ab, but it's using the words that have a literal meaning of water spreader or seed spreader. And this way of spelling it, the Sumerian, it means old man or wise man. So it has the same word, spreader or allotment, and then it has this first word here. But it uses the Sumerian meaning. The Sumerian meaning is like old man or elder. And it could also mean father. So you can see it's complex. And also, like I said, you can spell it with the pronunciation. So in this case, they're not having any regard for the meanings. Instead, they're just spelling it with the sounds. So this is a, this is bu, and this is Abuum is how you spell it. So there's different ways of different letters, Sumerian letters of spelling the same word, but it's pronounced all the same, ab, and it's the same Hebrew word. Okay, so as I said, it seems a bit complicated, but that's how the Akkadian and Sumerian language works. So with that said, let me show you guys. I have a Word file. Let's see. Let me see if I zoom in. So what's interesting is you could actually do this on your own if you download I'm going to get rid of window for now. Okay, so ab, father, ancestor, originator. So if you want to spell it a certain way, you can you simply have to get the number, type the numbers with no U in front, followed by Alt X, and then it'll give you the Akkadian form. But you have to have the Akkadian font file. So let me see for a second how we spelled it again, just to make sure I have it accurate. So 1 second here. Hold on, guys. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to share the screen again on that Wiktionary page, so you can see at the top gives you the numbers. So it has 1201C. So you could say add with 1201C, then you have to have Alt X. And let's see what this one is. It's not showing one. Okay, it's not showing it here, but there's a number reference for each sign. So you have to look up each sign, and then you would type. Well, I think I know why. It's because you'd have to go to each individual sign. Like if you go to this first sign, you see the number for it. It's 12,000 Alt X. 12,000 Alt X, followed by 12,040 Alt X. So let me try to do that. 12,000 and then 12,040. So let's see if I can do that in the document file. 1 second. Okay, let's try this. So 12,000 Alt X, and what was it? 12,040, was it? What was it? Yeah, 12,040. So that is how you would spell it in one way. So you could actually write Akkadian yourself in a document file. It would just take a long time. So that's one way to spell it. What was the other ways? Let's see here. See if we can spell it a few different ways. One sec, guys. So this other way to spell it was 1201C. Okay, so let's try 1201C. 1201C Alt X. That's another way to spell it. And this other way is 1200A, 1200A and 12,040. Okay, so 1200A and 12,040. Well, these are three of the ways that you could spell it. And then the spelling, like the phonetic spelling, you have these other ones. So there's I could look up these two as well, but I'll do that on my own time, at a different time. So you could see that's how it works. So now let's see here. Let's go now to that Akkadian the Akkadian book that I was reading through. Okay, so this first word here corresponds to the Hebrew. This it lists it as the Hebrew word ab. Akkadian abu. The u is just it's just a word ending. So the real word is ab, not u. So you can ignore u. Okay, ab. And Old Akkadian onward. So it is a very ancient Akkadian word. It occurs in the oldest form of Akkadian that we know of. Okay, and it can mean father. So it's the same basic sense. So we have here bayit or bit av. It means house father. So in Numbers 3:24, we see this first word nasia, bayit av. Maybe we'll look that up. Numbers 3:24, just so we can see the example. Numbers 3:24. So I'll share the screen. Numbers 3:24. The chief of the house of the father of the Gershonites, Eliasaph, the son of Leah. So chief is Nasia, the house of the father. So that's a phrase, house of the father. Chief of the house of the father. Okay, so now we go back. We take a look at here, and we see the same phrase occurs in Akkadian. Bit abi, house of the father. So then we have an Akkadian sentence where it occurs. So tarbitum shi ana bit abisu itar. So the relevant words that are the same to bit ab is right here. Bit abi su. Su is just an ending that was added. Abisu. So su means his. Okay. So they translate it as this foster child returns to his family. But it actually means returns to the house of his father. That's what it means. The house. So they're translating it freely, but the actual literal meaning here is not he returns to his family. It's he returns to the house of his father, because house is right here, father, and then Su is his. Okay, so here we have abotim erashanim. and also Abik Erashun. So again, the pronunciation I'm giving might not necessarily be 100%, but just work with me. So this one is um, I believe Rashon is the first is what it means. So Akkadian has ab, but then it has a different word. It has maher. Instead of rasun, it has maher. So then we can see that it's also used to mean someone who originated something, not a father, but the origin of something. So in the Bible, we see he's the father of those who dwell in tents and amidst herds. In Genesis 4:20, and the ancestor or the father of all who play the lyre and pipe. So that's in Genesis 4. So I'm going to go to Genesis 4 for a second to show you guys. So we have a problem. Cain's genealogy occurs where we have Cain had Enoch, Enoch had Arad, Arad had Mehuel, Mehuel begot Methuselah, Methuselah begot Lamech, Lamech had Ada and Zillah, Ada bare Jebal. Jebal was the father of those that dwell in tents and have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. So the problem with that is that their lineage died out before the flood. So how could they be the father of everybody who does these things? So clearly it doesn't mean father, it means the originator. So Jabal was the one who originated the idea of dwelling in tents, and Jubal was the originator of the one who plays the harp and organ. So rather than father, it can mean the origin of something. So now we go back. So in Akkadian, it says Enak or Enaku. So I am superior to you, a master of every craft. The actual literal word used is father of every craft. So he's not saying, he's the literal father, but he's the one who he originates it. It comes from him. He's able to do it. And we have a protector of orphans. So in the Bible, we have the father of orphans, the champion of widows, God in his holy habitation. So God is the father of orphans. Well, isn't he the father of, technically he's the father of everybody, right? So why did it say that he's the father of orphans? It's to emphasize that he is their caretaker, their provider. Akkadian has a similar thing where it has the sun god is the father of homeless girls or orphan girls. Term of respect. Here it says in 2 Kings, his servants came forward and spoke to him. Sir, they said. That's how they translate it. But the actual word used is father. So they call uh, Elisha father in a similar way that, or it might not be Elisha, but whoever is speaking here, they're to their master, they call him father. But then down here, Elisha says to uh, Elijah, he calls him father. My father. Because Elijah was he was the origin of certain teachings that were handed down to Elisha. So in that sense, Elijah was his father. In the same way, Akkadian refers to people of honor as fathers. Okay, so now we have to go to the other side of the page. So it'll be used to say, when you're saying someone's parents, you say father and mother. There's no word for parents. You have to say specifically father and mother. And so in Hebrew, that's how you say it. Ab and am. Am is mother. Am. So his father and mother who bore him, you'd say Abiyu, Abiyu wa amu iladiu. Again, my pronunciation is not necessarily good, but so that's how you say it in the Bible. Akkadian, you have ab and om, which is the same word for mother. The parents who begot her. So his father and mother who bore him is Elad, Iu. The same Elad occurs in Akkadian, Alid. Same word. And it says when her parents died in the Bible, in the Hebrew of the Bible, it has, and in the death of her father and her mother. That's what it says. And in death of father hers and mother hers. Okay, now the Akkadian has this is father, ab, and mother, Now this first word is since. Istu, since father, mother died. It's imutuni. So the mut is the same word die, or same word as here, mut. Father-son relationship in a legal treaty context. So in the Bible, you see God referring to Solomon. He's going to be a father to Solomon, and he will be a son to him. Akkadian uses similar language in the context of a legal treaty context. Okay, so familiar relationship, a maternal grandfather. So you have here father of the mother, Abiam. Genesis 28:2. Now I didn't know they do that in the Bible, so I want to look that up. Genesis 28:2. Quite interesting. Genesis 28:2. So let's see what it says. Thy mother's father. House of Bethuel, thy mother's father. So let's see. Father of mother thy mother. So now we go back to the page. Okay, so Abiam is father of mother. In Akkadian, Abiom. Abiumi, father of mother. A paternal uncle is brother of father. Ahiab, brother of father. Akkadian is Ahiab. It's Ahiabi. Same core words, same exact words. It's just spelled in Sumerian, but it's the same words. Paternal aunt, sister of father. Ahot or Ahat Av. Akkadian, Ahat Abi. Same exact words used. Okay. Legal definition for an orphan. So Esther has no father or mother. So there's not for her father and mother. Akkadian, who has father and mother not. Excuse me, father or mother. No. So ab and again. Okay, so that is the word for father in this Akkadian book. The next word in the Akkadian book is abad, but before we go to that, let's check any of the other words. We're going to go now to the comprehensive dictionary, etymological dictionary. So after comes the fifth month of the Jewish calendar, and that is Av. In Akkadian, it's also Ab. Arabic has the same name for the fifth month of the year. Hebrew uses Ab in later post-biblical Hebrew. It uses it to mean chief, the first, the arch, or the master of something, or origin of something. Then Hebrew also has a young shoot, a sprout, or verdure. It's spelled the same, Aleph Bet, but the Akkadian word is spelled with a nun. Now we're going to see throughout, very common in Hebrew and Akkadian, where the letter nun gets dropped out due to pronunciation issues. So Akkadian, it basically has the same word, but it's spelled with an extra letter, A-N-B, or Aleph Nun Bet. So let me pull up the Hebrew keyboard so you guys can see. So Akkadian would essentially spell that same word as the Hebrew spells it as ab, but the Akkadian it spells it as this. So you have the two ways. That's two ways. It's the same word, but this is the Hebrew it means like sprout, and the same word sprout, but in Akkadian. Okay. So now we go back. Post-biblical Hebrew, if you want to say father or daddy, like in a more impersonal, casual way, you say Abba instead of Ab. Aramaic, that's where it comes from, the Abba. Okay, let's see what we got here. Then there's Abib, which is to bring forth shoots, the coming of spring. And you've heard the month of Abib, which is spring, is when Passover is to be held. Okay. It would probably be the Abib probably comes from the what we saw earlier, the ANB, anib. And then we have post-biblical Hebrew, abibit, it's a type of rash. Okay. This is a rabbinic word. It's basically ABCD, but instead it's ABGD, the first four letters of the Hebrew alphabet. But you will see this, for example, they'll call it an abgad. Hebrew is like an abgad, they say. Okay. And they do loan words too. So this is just the Latin word augurs. This is eugenics. So this is literally just a loan word, eugenics. See, they're using this as a EV and then a GIN. So yeah. No, and sorry, the eugenics is down here. Eugenic down here. But up here, this is eugenis. Again, these are not Hebrew words. These are Greek origin. But so now the next word on this list is abad. So we're going to go to abad. Let's take a look at Blue Letter Bible to see father. Let's go back to father. And so remember, father was the first number, Strong's H1. So when we go to the next page, it's going to say Strong's H2 for ab, and that's the Aramaic. So in the Aramaic portions of the Bible, it's spelled the same. Okay, so that doesn't really count because it's the same exact word. So Strong's H3 is what we said earlier about the shoot. So you see Akkadian, compare Akkadian or Assyrian inbu, INB, or ANB. Then it says from the same root as Abib. Okay, so now go to the next one. Strong's H4 is the Aramaic of the same exact word. It's literally the same exact word we just did for Hebrew, but it's the Aramaic of it. Now these are names. So there's various names in the Bible that start with Ab. So Abgata. Okay, but now then it comes, the next word is Abad. All right, so now we're going to go with Abad for our next word. Before that, I just want to check one thing here. I'm going to go back to Wiktionary. So ab, right? So etymology 1, ab, right? But there's etymology 2. Etymology 2 is the month that we said earlier. And that's spelled differently in Akkadian. Akkadian spells it with month, the word for month, and fire. So you could spell it this way, or this is the word way of saying it, and this is the phonetic way of saying it. So abu or abuum. But if we look here, the logogram way of spelling it, this word again is month, and this word, let's take a look. What's this word? Fire. Yeah, so potentially it could also mean new, or fire. So the month of new, it probably means the month of newness. If I were to, if you're translating it for like, the month of would be like the new month. They say it means fire, but I question their association with that. I would say it probably is new. I mean, so it can mean fire, but in the context of the month, I think um, it means the new. But so that was etymology number 2. Etymology number 3 is uh, the shoot. So here we see it has the N. Arabic spells it the same as Hebrew, but Aramaic spells it the same as Akkadian with an N. See? So if we look, this is the Akkadian word. The Arabic also we have. Oh, there's 2 different words. So Hebrew has grape and neb. So they're saying this could be compared. Okay. So anyway, with that said, I think that's it for what Wiktionary has. So now we're going to move on to Abad. Let's look at Abad. And these videos are only going to be roughly 2 hours to 2.5 hours long. It's not going to be like the pagan series that I was doing where it was like 8 hours long. That way, because it's too long a series, so it doesn't make sense to do 8 hours every Sunday of Hebrew words, So instead, we're going to be doing smaller portions every week, like about 2 hours or so. So with that said, we're going to share now Abad. Okay, so Abad has different ways of meaning. So they translate it a lot as perish. It could also be translated as destroy, lose, fail, different ways of, okay? So this is important because the question is, does it actually mean perish or does it actually mean destroy? The reason we say does it actually mean that is because if we look, let's go to lose. 10 times it's translated as lose. So what does it say? Well, it said 10 times, but it's only showing once for some reason. I don't know why it said this. Okay, hold on. That's annoying. But it can lose. It does not exclusively mean to destroy something. So let's see. The shepherds shall have no way to flee. Let's take a look at that. Okay, the shepherds. So what is this word? Manos. Refuge. Okay, so the more literal translation here would be and escape essentially it's saying escape will be destroyed. So there won't be a way to escape because the escape will be gone, is what it's saying. But okay, hold on. So we see they translate it different ways. You wish they would translate it more literally across the board, right? Okay, so it can be used of a lost and wandering sheep. The sheep. Okay, Psalm 119, 176. Let's take a look. Psalm 119. They say that uses the word 119. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. The word is used is abad, or destroyed or perish, but it's not saying the sheep is destroyed, but it's using that word, lost. So I have gone astray as a sheep that is destroyed. Now this is being used as an adjective, it looks like. They say it's a participle. In other cases, it's a participle or an adjective. It's a sheep that is lost, a lost sheep. So clearly it's not saying the sheep is destroyed. So it has a wider nuance of meaning, more of being lost. So if you take the meaning to be lost, if something is destroyed, it has been lost, right? If your house gets destroyed, you lost your house. If your car gets destroyed, you lost your car. But if you can't find something, you've lost it. It's not destroyed, it's lost. So the meaning is actually more lost rather than destroyed. But lost can mean destroyed, and it can mean can't find it, depending on context. So the more literal definition would be lost. So a translation that's more literal should try to use lost as much as possible across the board. So let's see. So Egypt is lost. Because think about it. So Pharaoh's servants said unto Pharaoh, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve Yahweh their God. Do you not know that Egypt is destroyed? Well, it's not destroyed. Egypt never was destroyed at that time. It was in great disarray, but it had never been completely destroyed. So this is probably a bad translation. Instead, it should be Egypt is lost, is doomed, essentially. Whatever soul it shall be that doeth any work in that same day, that same soul will I loose from among his people. You shall perish among the heathen, you shall be lost among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. Went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they were lost from among the congregation. And the children of Israel spake unto Moses, saying, behold, we die, we are lost, we all are lost. So I would argue lost is a more accurate literal translation. But it can mean destroy. So we shouldn't be saying that every time it says destroy, that's a false rendering, because it could mean destroy in many places. But to have a more ambiguous interpretation, we should, as much as possible, try to go with lost instead of destroy. Because destroy is an interpretation. It's not what the text actually says. So keep in mind. So anyway, abad. Okay. So now let's take a look at what the comprehensive dictionary says about abad. So they say perish. Moabite, same thing. Aramaic, Syriac, Ugaritic, Arabic, Ethiopic, Akkadian. All means the same basic thing. He was lost, perished, it strayed. So see, it's all meaning the same thing. At post-biblical Hebrew, perishable, a lost thing. Okay, Abaddon is destruction, the place of destruction. It's formed with the suffix wa nun. This is Abdinut. I think that's father of judgment or something. But Abdullah, I think that's like the Muslim thing. And then Abaddon, this is loss. Okay, so we'll stop there. Now we'll go to the Wiktionary page. Second. Okay, Wiktionary. Let's check it out. So here we have, let's get rid of the vowel markings. Okay, so abad. Oh, same word in Aramaic as well. So we have to perish. Can also mean, it's a modern way of spelling this, abid. Okay, it's perishable, irretrievable. Yeah, so it comes from that same, one second. Oh yeah, this means waste or lose, destroy. So yeah, it's all related to the same root word, lost or lose. Okay, so now now it says there's the Akkadian word for it in the comprehensive etymological dictionary, but it doesn't list it on Wiktionary. So let's see if we can find it. Abatu. Let's see, Abatu. No. Akkadian Abatu. Okay. We found it. Hold on. At least it showed up in the search results, but it's not showing. All right. Let's try this. Okay, the Sumerian to mean it. So the Sumerian word is gul. It's crush, grind, break up, demolish, destroy. It's not showing the Akkadian for some reason. So we need to look in this. Let me show you guys. Let me share the screen. So this is a Sumerian dictionary, which also lists Akkadian words. So the word is gul. Could also be spelled gu'ul in Sumerian. But So it means to destroy, to break, flatten, carve, cut, engrave. So this word can mean different Akkadian words. The one in question that we're focused on is abatu, which is the equivalent of abad. So it has a long thing that's kind of confusing there. Yeah, Akkadian. It doesn't really give much about the Akkadian, but yeah. So anyway, we'll move on from that one. So now let's go to the Akkadian etymology book. Okay, so abatu. It occurs in Assyrian as well as Old Babylonian onward. So it means to perish, to destroy something, but it also means, okay, well, it says, so you can, it's set of buildings. So buildings can be destroyed. So in the Bible, in Hebrew, we have destroy the high places, right here, bamot, the high places. Let's see. There's different. They give different examples of different objects. So holy places is mikyamot. Shrines, bamot, molten images, or bars, jalami maskat. So all those occur in oh yeah, and then excuse me, and then bariyahim, that's bars. So destroying bars or all these different things. Destroying chariots. Okay. Rakab is chariot. So we have something similar in Akkadian where you have a bunch of different types of things can be destroyed. A wall, Zadura, outer wall, Salha, temple tower, Genuna, battlement, Kelila, doorpost, Sipa. So these are all said to be destroyed, or abatu. Okay, set of land, the inhabited world. Basically destroying a country. Defeating a country. Set of the wicked tried to destroy me. And then the Akkadian says, the warrior amongst the gods who destroys the wicked. Said of the enemy, your enemy shall perish. Your enemies shall perish. So this is shall perish, this is they, and this is enemy, this is e, like plural, and this is your. So shall perish they, enemies your. Your enemy shall perish. The different word order than in English. So Marduk is said to destroy the obstinate enemies, and Marduk destroys them in the same word, the abad. So abatu occurs in El Amarna, the Amarna tablets, as a gloss to halak, the true semantic equivalent of the Hebrew word. Let's see. Let's second here. So they're saying this guy, this scholar believes that there might be Akkadian words. Uh, Abatu is just to destroy or ruin, and another one which means absence or flight, which is the meaning of lost. Something is lost, absence or flight. But I don't think there needs to be two different roots. I think it's the same root word, lost, but it can mean destroyed lost or it can mean location lost. Here, though, interestingly, we see it says, "My ancestor," in Deuteronomy, "my ancestor was an Aramaean fugitive," or someone who was lost. My ancestor was an Aramaean lost one. Okay, so that's Abad. So we'll only do a couple more probably. So the next one would be Abba, which means read. But before we go to that, let's go to Blue Letter Bible. Okay, so we have Abad here, which is destroy, perish, or lost. Now we go to the next one, the next Strong's. So Strong's H7 is the same word. It's a verb. No, it's Aramaic. It's the same word, but it's an Aramaic word. Okay, so unfortunately, Strong's lists both the Aramaic and the Hebrew as two different words for some reason, even though it's the same word. So we'll see that often throughout. The Aramaic is a repeat. Abad, destruction. So that occurs, same basic word. That occurs 2 times. The only reason they count it as a different word is because of a different vowel marking, but it's literally the same exact word. It's just the participle of lost. Abda, a lost thing lost. So that occurs like 4 times. And it's literally from that same root. And we have again a lost thing, something lost, something that's perishing, Abda. Now Abaddon. Now we see in the New Testament that Abaddon is mentioned, right? Let's Abaddon. Let's take a look. Might have misspelled it. Abaddon. Yeah, Revelation 9. So, and they had a king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath the name Apollyon. Apollyon in Greek literally means to destroy. So destroy is the same meaning. Now, so something to keep in mind here. Why does it say the on actually is a suffix that means essentially the most of, or supreme. It's the amount of it. So, for example, when you have the Most High God, you say God highest. El Elyon. Eli is high, and yon is est, or most. So the Most High is the Elyon. The on is the most part. So when you're talking about something that's destroyed, the Abdon is supremely destroyed. It's like very destroyed, high level of destruction, super destruction, essentially. So we keep that in mind. That Abdon, it makes it into like a much more intense form of destruction, like total destruction, essentially, or the highest level of it, supreme destruction. One second. Let's go to the next one. This is roughly the same. Instead of with a wa, it's spelled without a wa. Thing. So a lot of these strongs are basically repeats. Literally the same word, just spelled with different vowel marks. This is a verb that means will. So now let's take a look at the comprehensive etymological dictionary. Hello, good to have you on. Today we don't have as many viewers. We did have about 5 earlier, but I think some of this information is quite tedious, so I think some people lost interest. But my hope is that people will revisit this video and watch it entirely, because we're going to be learning Hebrew together. So you got to be patient with the information I'm sharing. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. So with that said, let's share the screen for, and we're only going to be going for about another 20 to 30 minutes, probably. So let's see what we got here. Okay, so Abba. Oh, hold on, where's my mouse? Okay, there it is. So Abba means to want or to be willing, to consent. Akkadian has abitu, wish, will, or desire. Arabic, abe, same basic word. Let's see. So that's essentially what it means, will or want. So let's go back to the Blue Letter Bible for a second. Yeah, definitely. I think, once it picks up, I think people will be a lot more interested in it. So I appreciate your support. Thank you. Um, so this word can be will or consent. It's a pretty basic core meaning. So it has the same basic information. Abitu, Assyrian or Akkadian, the Ethiopian. So it really should all be translated essentially the same way, will or would. Okay. Let's see if we can find that in the Wiktionary page. Okay, let's share the screen. So they say compare the Akkadian Buitum. So it doesn't really have an article for the Akkadian on Wiktionary. But let's see. How did they say it? Abitu. Let's try it. Abitu. Akkadian. Hold on. Akkadian Abit. No, it's not there. So we're going to look at the Sumerian dictionary. Let's see. Well, it's not showing it. Okay, well, I guess we won't be able to find this particular word. So let me go back to that Wiktionary. So this is one way of spelling it. So it's be'etum or be'etu. That means the same basic thing, a thing wished, willed, or desired. So pretty much it's pretty clear that that's the same word there. Then we have read. So read, I'll share the screen again. So we have reed or papyrus. This is possibly related to the Arabic abba, Akkadian abu, reed. Let's see. I'm going to show. Okay, reed or papyrus. So etymology uncertain. The Assyrian has the same, or Akkadian. Whenever they say Assyrian, it means Akkadian. Because this was an older, the strongest thing is an older thing. So they used different words at the time. They said Assyrian instead of Akkadian. Yeah, only one time. They're passed away as the Swift ships, but it actually says the Reed ships. So it, again, only occurs like one time in the Bible, but it occurs again. So now we're going to look at the Akkadian thing for it. So reed occurs in Assyrian dialect and the Old Babylonian onward. So Biblical Hebrew hapax, that means it only occurs one time in the Bible. My days passed like reed boats, like an eagle swooping onto its prey. So in Akkadian, we see he broke the unsubmissive kings like a marsh reed. So Malki is kings in Akkadian, and Kima is like. Api is a reed, and then Uhasisma is probably marsh, if I had to guess. The unsubmissive, I believe, is Ken Shutishu. I don't know for sure, but I'm inclined to think that because usually like an adjective is put right next to it, right after the noun. So api, that's the reed. Okay, so with that said, it looks like the next word is abus or abbas. So let's see what the next word is for for the Etymological Dictionary. So here we have Abihot, which is fatherhood. Then we have, that's Mishnaic Hebrew, so it's like Rabbinic Hebrew. Modern Hebrew is fatherly or paternal, is Abihoti. Arabic has Ebhal, so that's what this word comes from. Again, this is Mishnaic Hebrew. Abab is a type of instrument, post-biblical Hebrew, possibly a loan word from the Akkadian, imbub, which means flute or pipe. Arabic has the same word. They say it was probably a loan word from Aramaic, because Aramaic has that same word. Reedy or tubular, it's formed from the meaning for reed. Small flute. Abubit. So these are just different instruments that are used in later Hebrew related to reed or flute in meaning. Abad, lost or perishable, that's what we covered already, destruction. A loan word from Arabic. It was coined by an Arab philosopher. Now this is an interjection. It's a woe or alas. Abui. Same thing occurs in the Bible. Abak, hazy or misty. That's passive participle of this word, so we'll cover that later probably. Abal. There's an Akkadian form of it. Yeah, so a lot of these, so see how wa's there? Like, look at this. This is abal with a wa, but it comes from this, which has no wa. So we'll be covering that later. Abolitionism. This is a loan word from Latin. They spell it out. Abolitionism. Abon, that comes from stone. We'll cover that later. Okay, abos is the next one. So they say it means manger. Post-biblical Hebrew, it's a feeding receptacle, a bowl for working men. So it seems like in the older usage it was used for animals, but here we see it's also can be used in later Hebrew for men who work as well. And then this is related, fed or fattened, feeding or fattening. Okay, so we'll stop there. So Abbas is related to the manger or feeding trough for animals. Could be extended to humans as well, but it means like to feed, a place of feeding, or it could be feeding itself. So now let's look at in the blue letter. Okay, blue letter Bible, we have crib, manger, feeding trough. So it occurs 3 times to mean crib or feeding trough. So with the unicorn, that's a bad translation. Be willing to serve thee or abide by thy crib or feeding trough. Where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. The ox knows his owner, and the donkey his master's trough. Israel does not know, my people does not consider. So it says it comes from a root word. without the wa. And it means to feed or fatten. So the verb fatten something, and the the noun is a place of feeding. Okay, so that's the Blue Letter Bible. So now we look at what it says here for the Akkadian. So Abbas, the Akkadian is Abus. Old Babylonian it occurs in, and onward. Also, yeah, so it means storehouse, stable. So we just read this from Isaiah. So Akkadian, we have the fields behind the cattle pen, including the Amari and Abusu buildings. So the Amari and the Abusu. Unlike Akkadian, Hebrew employs the denominative verb as a passive participle. So fattened oxen or fattened geese. So like it uses it to mean almost like an adjective. The oxen are fattened, they're filled up, they're fed. But Akkadian apparently doesn't do that. At least mainstream Akkadian doesn't. That doesn't mean, by the way, it doesn't mean that the Bible was making it up or like that it's a later thing, because Akkadian had different forms. So Akkadian, remember I said originally there was Akkadian split into two different dialects, which is Babylonian and Assyrian. But prior to that, Akkadian actually split. Prior to that, it split into Eblaite and Akkadian. So before Akkadian, it was the original Hebrew. It split into Eblaite and Akkadian. So it's possible that the Eblaite is the origin of some of these nuances that the Akkadian doesn't have. So I argue that the original Hebrew language was very close to Akkadian, but not exactly Akkadian. It was slightly older than Akkadian and had some extra stuff that Akkadian doesn't have, but that other languages like Eblaite may have had. So just keep that in mind, that if Akkadian doesn't have it, or if Akkadian has something different, that doesn't necessarily mean the Hebrew form is absolutely a later rendering. It could be the Hebrew could go back to an ancient preservation of a different dialect of Akkadian, like an Eblaite or something. So Eblaite is considered a different language from Akkadian, but it's close enough to Akkadian that it could almost be considered a different dialect. So that's why I say a different dialect of Akkadian. So Akkadian, as we know it, does not say fattened animal. It'll say a building like a trough or a manger, or storehouse, but it doesn't say it as a fattened animal. Akkadian employs the expression house of Abus or Abusati. House is bit and Abus is the stable, so house of the stable. And the Hebrew, let's see. The Hebrew employs the hapax noun from her granaries, a form absent from Akkadian. Let's see. I mean, if it just means a storehouse, stable, right? It said, what did it say it means? Yeah, a storehouse. So they say it's a form that doesn't occur, but I would disagree with that just because it just means storehouse. So granaries is a storehouse. It just so happens that it's storing grain, but it's still a storehouse. So, okay, so the next word that occurs would be aber. But before we go to that, let's check out the word in Wiktionary. See if we have anything on Wiktionary. Anything to add on Wiktionary. So it doesn't show the. Okay, here's the root. Yeah, it's not showing the Akkadian what I want. Let's see. One second. Yeah, so I can't find it on the dictionary page, so we'll move on. Whenever I can find the actual Akkadian and Sumerian words, I'm going to show you what they look like. But we'll move on because I cannot find that at this time. So we'll go now to the Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary again. So we have zinc. It's a later word, but it comes from this, the wa, removed. So we're not going to be covering these words right now when it has wa like this. So this book includes all different spellings. So sometimes it's going to have the word occurring earlier than we're going to be approaching it. This is avocado, so that's clearly a modern word, you know. But just like English borrows from other languages, modern Hebrew does the same thing. And even ancient Hebrew did the same thing. They borrowed from languages at that time. So you keep that in mind, that not every word in the Bible, not every Hebrew word in the Old Testament is a Hebrew word. It actually is borrowed from other languages. Okay. The Arabic word abzim, right here. Okay. One second here. Slaughter. So this occurs later. What's the next word they say it is? Abir. Okay. So slaughter occurs in the Bible. We'll take a look at that. Okay, Akkadian, related to Akkadian abahu, synonymous with tabahu. Okay. See, these gives like all the words, even like later, way later words. So we're not going to necessarily be going through all of them. This is in the Bible. Abtia, watermelon. It's a hapax. So it only occurs one time in the Bible. Okay, so the next word, like I said, that the Akkadian one lists is aber. So aber is all the way. It's all the way. Where is it? Oh, so there's a lot of words here that it's not doing at the moment. Okay, so yeah, Abir way down here. So let's take a look at the Blue Letter Bible. Just going to go slaughter. Here. All right, so it only occurs one time in the Bible. Let's see if there's a Wiktionary article about it. Hmm. One sec, guys. I'm going to go back to where we saw it on it was on the Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary. So Shalom, good to see you. Whoops, I just meant to share just Shalom. So here we have, it says Akkadian Abahu, means to slaughter or torment. So it's clearly the same exact word as Abaha. So how do they spell that? Abahu. Let's see if we can find it in Wiktionary. Okay, so we'll move on from that one. But it says Abahu, so we know that it occurs in Akkadian as well. So the next word is watermelon. They say it could come from an Egyptian word. We'll skip that one. Abby, let me share the screen. Hold on. Okay, so Abby, it's a name. So now these are a bunch of names. My father is God. Abiasaph. So these are all different Strong's numbers. Abib, that's the month, or the month of Abib. We covered that one already. Abi, father of Gib. So again, these are names. Abigail, Abidan, Abida, Abaya, all coming from the meaning of father. Some father is this. Father is the Abahiu, Abiud, Abahil, Aber. Okay, so now this is Ebion, which is being in want or need or poorness. So, have you ever heard of the Ebionites? That literally means the poor ones. Poor ones. Ebion. Remember I said earlier, wa noon, it means the most or something, like a high amount of something. So, someone who's poor is completely wanting, in complete want, desire. They don't have anything, so they are full of want. And let's see, Ebion. I'm going to take a look at the Wiktionary, see if we got anything. It just says it's from root abba, which we already covered, cognate with Ugaritic abion. So it means the same thing in Ugaritic. But it doesn't show anything for Akkadian here. Let me look. Let me look at the an Akkadian instance in the dictionary here. Okay. So with that said, see, they translate different ways as needy, poor, beggar. Why do they have to translate different ways? Why can't they just stick with one translation, needy or poor? Like, why do they have to change it up? I shall not rest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. You could just say, let's see where it says needy. To thy poor and to thy needy. So there are two different words here. Let's see what the two different words are. To thy poor and to thy needy. So this one is ani or ani, wretched. So this is lowly. This is more like lowly. It looks like, or afflicted. Yeah, so probably afflicted or but it should pretty much be translated the same board. So I would probably translate because that means want, you want, right? So need is like very close to want. So probably better translation across the board. You say needy. 1 second here. I'm just looking up the etymology of poor just to. Okay. So now, with that said, so that's Ebion. Ebiona, name of a plant. Okay, this is someone's, and each name has its own unique Strong's number. Avital with ab as in father. Abim, all names. Mal, Abimelech or Abimelech, Abinadab, all names. We're going to go into these name meanings for now. It suffices just to read the names, having connection issues. Can you guys hear me? It looks like there's only one person on, it says, but if you're on, can you tell me if you can hear me? Because that my mic was malfunctioning. So if you could just confirm that you could hear me. If not, I'll have to double check. Let me see. I want to just double check. I can hear myself. And like I said, I'm about to end, so I'd like to get one more good word in. But let's see. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, yeah, so my audio is good. So, all right, sorry about that, guys. So let me go back to sharing the screen. Okay, so we have Abisaf or Abiasaf. It's a name again. So a lot of the Strong's numbers are just names. Abiezer, Abieldon. Okay, so Abi, that comes from Aber. Aber is to fly, but it refers to strength, like being able to fly. You have to have strength to fly. So Okay, I think I'm back. So it's for some reason my connection is not doing good. I don't know why. All right, looks like it's better at the moment. Um, so let me try this again. My apologies. So it only translates at one time as oops, let's go back. Aber, which is strong. It translates it 6 times as the might one, the one of might, and mainly refers to God. The mighty one of Jacob, the mighty of Jacob. Notice God is in italics because it doesn't actually say God in any of these places. It just says the mighty one of Jacob, the mighty one of Israel, the mighty one of Jacob. See? So, uh, so Aber is the word. So now we go to the comprehensive dictionary. Where's Aber? I believe it's down at the bottom. Yeah, so the strong one, it's an attribute of God. Aber is strong, mighty, valiant. Can be referred to as a bull because a bull is a strong animal. Aberot is a Mishnaic Hebrew or Middle Ages Hebrew, and it means strength or valor, courage. Okay. That's all it has there. But now we'll go to the Akkadian dictionary one. So here we have the Akkadian is Abaru, Hebrew strong, Akkadian means strength. So the Akkadian substantive Abaru, strength, occurs frequently with either of two other terms denoting strength, Danu and Umasu. So, for example, Gamer Duni U Abari. That is consummate in power and strength. So Aber is attested is said of the strength of a bull. Akkadian is not attested in this usage. So Akkadian does not refer to the oxen as mighty. It refers to strength in general, but it doesn't refer to it doesn't refer to oxen by the word abir. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean the original Hebrew didn't do that, but in Akkadian we don't see that. Okay. So let me see how much is left of the Akkadian words here. Okay. We'll probably need to stop right around here. Let's see. Maybe we can finish Abal and Aban. So I think that's what we'll do. So next thing we got right here is Abal. So in Akkadian, it means to dry up, to dry. Hebrew can also have that meaning of dry. So here we have in Ezekiel, I restrained her rivers, I let the underground waters dry up. So the dry up would be, where's Abal? Oh, it's at the very top, Abal. Okay. And the Akkadian example of an Akkadian dams up its canal and lets its irrigation system dry up. Ubal. So the word abal in Hebrew can also mean mourn. So it's been translated by others to mean I cause tehum to mourn, but they believe it should be translated as dry up. So let's see here. So it says, the new wine dried up, the vine withered. In the Bible, Akkadian, to dry up, said of the date palm. And in Job, his flesh shall be in pain, his body will dry up. Abalu in Akkadian is said of the mouth and the tongue and the belly, which dries up. So in the Bible, there's one entry for abal, which connotes both mourn and dry up. The different dictionary separates it into two entries, one word meaning mourn and the other meaning dry up. So the Akkadian has the dry up meaning, but the Akkadian does not have the mourn meaning. So in Akkadian, abal never means mourn. So see, it says Akkadian does not have the meaning to mourn. So it's possible that originally that word did not mean mourn, but it came to have that meaning later on as the language evolved in Hebrew. But another possibility is, like I said, a different dialect of Akkadian, like Eblaite or something, that had that meaning, mourn. And you can deduce it by potentially meaning, if it means like to droop. So if a plant droops, it's drying up, right? But also, if something droops, it's dropping down. So like water dropping down from your eyes, you're mourning. So that's probably where the meaning came from. To droop means to dry, but also if tears are drooping down from your face, that's mourning. So let's see. The comprehensive dictionary. We have abak is to rise, related to Akkadian abaku, to bring or turn. Let's see. Okay. A cloud of dust, abaka. Let me go to abak again. Oh yeah, so abak is dust or powder, yeah, but that's later on. Okay, so abal. So we saw abal means mourn or lament. Aramaic has it, Ugaritic has it, and also means mourn in Ugaritic. The Akkadian abal means to dry. Arabic has N instead of R, abana. So for the change of L to N in Arabic, that occurs in other examples. For example, Hebrew, zalam, Arabic, zanam. Same word, but the L was changed into N. And then another example, Hebrew is kala, means bride or daughter-in-law. The Arabic, same word, but it's spelled with an N instead of an L, kana. And then it says, see the introductory entry for L in this dictionary for more information on this subject. So a mourner or lamenter, again, these meanings don't occur in Akkadian. Akkadian, it only means to dry. Okay. Truly or indeed. All right, so now let me go to Blue Letter Bible. So we had the strong earlier, aber. Okay. 4 times as bulls, 4 times as strong ones, stout-hearted, valiant, angels. Let's see, what do they say for angels? Man did eat angels' food. So it actually doesn't say angels' food. It says the food of strong ones man ate. Man ate the food of strong ones. So it could have nothing to do with angels at all. This could actually be a completely bad translation. So that's important to keep in mind. Because some people base doctrine on this idea that angels have food, whereas other passages of scripture seem to say angels don't eat food. So do they eat food or don't they? So that could be an important thing of how you translate that. That is another name. Abishag, Abishua, Abishur. These are all names. Abishi, Abishalom, Abitar. Okay, abak is to roll or turn. The Akkadian has abaku. That's what we covered already. Okay, so abal, mourn or lament, but it can also mean to dry, like we said. Now, interestingly, this can also mean meadow. From an unused root meaning to be grassy, it can mean meadow. So what's very interesting is that the Bible actually gets something wrong by the etymology of it. So watch. Let's see. There's some place names with Ebal. Hold on. This is still morning. This was the okay. Meadow of the house of Makkah. So it actually means meadow or like field. But there's a place in Genesis where it actually translates it incorrectly. Abil Hashatim, meadow of acacias. Abel Keramim. Abel Mehola. So these all mean of this, meadow of that. Abel Mayim. So I gotta show you guys the place in Genesis where it messes it up. Abel Mitzrayim, this is what it is. The meadow of Egypt. The Bible incorrectly says, so here's what it says. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, "This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians." Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Jordan. This is just plainly not correct, because Abel does not mean mourn. It means meadow, the meadow of Egypt. But later scholars or later scribes thought this meant mourning. So when Jacob was being mourned for, they thought, well, this is why it's named Abel Mitzrayim, because they were mourning. But that's not true at all. So this is a later addition by the scribes. That's not the basis. Like, that's inaccurate. That's not what the name means at all. So we have to, if we're going to be honest with what the text or what the Hebrew words mean, this cannot be considered accurate. It means meadow of Egypt, not mourning of Egypt. So either a scribe added it incorrectly, or the original author was wrong, or maybe they were doing a play on words and they knew it didn't actually mean that, but they were saying it could be fulfilled in a similar way, like a dual fulfillment, if you will. We were not. I was hoping to do stone, but I don't think we're going to do stone because that's going to be too much. I'm going to try to wrap it up here, so we won't be doing stone today. We'll do stone first word for next time. But let me check now on Wiktionary these few words like aber and abak. Let's just double check this to make sure has any articles for those words. Let's see. It doesn't show the etymology for aber. Let's try abak. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's not really showing there as well. Okay, and abal. So the last one, let's see if there's anything. Yeah, for some reason they don't show the etymology on Wiktionary. But I can show you on, let's see, I'll show you on the Sumerian dictionary thing. So abu is dry. Remember we said it means dry. So the Sumerian word is ah, which is dry. So the word ah can also be abalu. So, and let's see, aber, no, abak. Okay, that we'll stop there. Hold on, strong, abar. Here it, abar. Let's see. Hold on a second. Lerum. See if it. One sec, guys. Baru. It doesn't really have the article I'm looking for, so we'll just stick with this one. So, like I said, it means strong. The Sumerian word is lerum, but the Akkadian translation is abar. By the way, sometimes the same Sumerian word can be translated or interpreted with different Akkadian words. So this is saying that this one word lerum, well, first of all, lerum could be spelled all these different ways. But then it can also mean these different things. It can mean abar, dan, which is strong. Amuk is another type of strong. Gamir, a different type of strong. So there's all these different words are different types of strength, and they all come from a similar Sumerian. They don't come from it, but like I tried to explain earlier in this video how it works. The Sumerian word can be used to mean the same Akkadian word. Like it can be translated. Let me see if I can explain this better. So let's say all right, I got a good way to explain this. So I'm gonna share the screen again with the document file that we had from earlier. Okay, so we have right here, let's say we're going to use the Hebrew word ab, okay? So let's say you want to say, how is your father doing? We would write, how is your ab doing? But instead of saying, when we're reading this, we're not reading it as how is your ab doing. We read it as how is your father doing. So we're pronouncing ab as father. So we ignore the fact that it's written as ab, and we're saying father because we know that ab is equal to father. So we're simply saying, how is your father doing? Even though we're writing ab. And so you could, for example, in Hebrew, the first verse, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, is, let's see, Bereshit, right? So Bereshit, in the beginning, I'll just spell it a different way. Bereshit, Bara, created, Elohim, God created the heaven, or not the heaven, at heavens and the earth. Ha Shemayim wa haaretz. Okay? It's actually wa et haaretz. All right. So would we pronounce it if we wrote it like this? Would we pronounce it Bereshit bara Elohim et Hashemayim wa'et haaretz. In the beginning created God the heavens and the earth. Or would we translate it as we're reading it? The Akkadians, they translated it as they read it. So they would write it in Sumerian. Basically, they wrote it with Sumerian words, but they pronounced it with Akkadian words. And so instead of pronouncing it with the Sumerian words, they would pronounce it with the Akkadian words. They would essentially translate it as they spoke it. So here we'd have in beginning created God the heavens and the earth. So even though we spelled it as Bereshit, we're pronouncing it as in beginning. And even though we spelled it as bara, we're pronouncing it as created. Even though we spelled it as Elohim, we're pronouncing it as God. So that's how it works in Akkadian. You take, instead of how is your ab doing, if we were taking the Hebrew word ab and using it to mean father, we would say father instead of saying ab. So that's what the Akkadians did. But they also used ab to, like this ab right here, as a sound value. So anytime you have ab as a sound, they could use it if they wanted to. So let's say like, nice abs, like, your muscles, nice abs, nice abs. They're using that sound, like that's how it works. Like, absolutely not would be absolutely not. See how it's, see what I mean there? So that is essentially what the Akkadians did. They would do it to be my, how is your father? My father is doing well. So instead of saying my ab is doing well, if you're taking Hebrew and going into English by the same principle, you'd spell it as my ab is doing well, but you'd pronounce it as my father is doing well. But my father is doing absolutely terrific. Here you'd say, well, how would you say this? You would say, my father is doing absolutely terrific. How about your, how about your father? So see, so they're using it in two different ways. They're using it as a translation and as a sound value, depending on context. So my father is doing absolutely terrific. How about your father? So that is how Akkadian does stuff. But instead of Hebrew to English, just understand that it's Sumerian to Akkadian. So it uses Sumerian words, but then uses them to mean Akkadian translation or Akkadian pronunciations. So it's a complex system, but it actually is quite interesting the more you look into it. So we will get more into this next time. But so that's pretty much it for today. So as a recap, we essentially went from the first word ab, father, all the way to ebal, mourn or to dry up. And so this covers, for the Strong's numbers, this covers the first 67 words are now, we don't have to worry about. We went through essentially the first 67 Strong number. And And in terms of the pages of the book, the Akkadian book, we went through, let's see, one, two, three, the first 3 pages of Akkadian words on in this book, and we have yet to go. Let's see, for Aleph, 1, 2, quite a ways. 3. Hold on a second. Quite a ways. 1, 2. Dang, wow, it gets really long. Okay, so almost like 40 pages left of Aleph. But the thing that took really long today, it took a long time, is we actually went through and read the preface of the Akkadian book. So that actually took a lot of our time. That was approximately essentially, that was about 10 pages we went through where we didn't even do any Hebrew words. So figure today we can approximate that we did about 15 pages. So it's going to take it's probably going to take I would say 2 or 3 more parts to finish Aleph. So stay tuned next week when we continue with Stone, Aben, and I hope more people will stay tuned in next week. I'll try to make it more interesting next week. My apologies if it was a little boring for anybody, but I hope you guys stick with this because it's really insightful to be learning the origin of these Hebrew words. So God bless you guys. Hope you have a great week, and I look forward to sharing more information about Hebrew going forward.